So last night I was watching Q&A. I know, it's a piece of crap. I had to watch it because legendary broadcaster Andrew Neil was on. And he gave the game away on The Voice. He warned them about what they'd experienced in Europe. I've mentioned this a few times in my past videos, but he gave it to them on a silver platter. This is what he said.
I understand why you want as many people as possible to be on your side of the debate, but actually you can have too many. If it seems like a carve-up among the political elite on the left and the right, there will be a populist reaction to that. And it could actually be your downfall rather than your victory. People often vote for reasons that have got nothing to do with the question being asked. A lot of people voted for Brexit in Britain, not because they were particularly interested in Britain leaving the European Union, but they wanted basically to thump the establishment. And this was the best way of doing it because the whole of the British establishment was in favour of staying within the European Union. So people who felt marginalised, who felt left out, poorer cities in the north of England and so on, they felt, hey, this is the way we'll get them to take notice of us. I covered years ago, not long after dinosaurs ruled the earth, a referendum as to whether Norway should join the European Union or not, way back in the early 70s. In that referendum, all the trade unions were in favour of joining. All of big business was in favour of joining. All the mainstream political parties were in favour of joining. Nearly all the media, pretty much all the media were in favour of joining. The Norwegian people said we're not going to join. And I think it was just them saying, we're not going to be told what to do. This is our one shot for us to make up our own minds.
After giving him that very clear warning of wisdom, the panel then gives their thoughts and they completely ignore it.
Do you, listening to that, Anne, and the voice of experience having lived through the bruising Brexit campaign and the others as well, what do you draw from that when you look ahead to what October may bring?
Look, you know, what Australia needs to be conscious of, that this is not on a political agenda. This is a moral and ethical agenda. And this will determine the integrity of Australia because individually, every person has a role to play. Whether they vote yes or whether they vote no is going to be to that individual's question of integrity. Now, the one thing that I'll bring to your attention is that the statement of the heart is a statement from the heart. Our people laid their soul bare to you and made themselves vulnerable in extending the hand to this nation and asking you to recognise us and to give us a voice. This country has criminalised our children. They are highly incarcerated. We're even locking up 10-year-olds. What a shame to this country. And yet, what you decide is going to determine our future. We shared with you our pain, but we also shared our hope. And if we don't have that hope recognised, you are then damning us to hell and you are going to kill a nation of people.
Dimitri?
Look, as Kanisha said in the previous segment, our first Australians have given us an enormous invitation, and I really want everybody to be able to support this voice. That's something that I sincerely believe, and I think lots of people are approaching this with a good nature. I think it's so important that we do have a respectful debate on this topic.
Where's the media failing, Andrew? You've been critical of the New York Times, particularly with its reporting of Brexit, but also there's been criticism of the Murdoch press and the role of Fox News in the rise of Trump, and you worked for Murdoch for a very long time. Where are we failing in the media? Are we contributing to this polarisation and misinformation?
Oh, yes, no question about it. The media today is the main echo chamber. And we all go to the echo chambers where we hear the messages that we like most in our ears. And the days when the media tries to provide a broad spectrum of opinion and have a debate about it so that everyone, I mean, where is the strong voice tonight in favour of voting against the voice? I haven't seen it. You know, whereas a good debate would have had at least one voice saying that. It's quite clear there's a lot of voices here in favour of the voice too, but let's have a debate. And I think the media does, I mean, you see it above all in America. Like all these things, they start in America. And I watch, and I spend a lot of time in the States. So I watch Fox News, Mr. Murdoch's channel, in the morning. There are 6 people there telling me how useless Joe Biden is. And then I switch over to another channel called MSNBC, which is a left wing, and there are 6 people telling me that Joe Biden's the best president since FDR. I mean, it didn't seem to strike anybody who makes television programs that in the morning, why don't we take 3 from one show, 3 from the other show, and put them all in the same studio, and then let's have a debate about it. So we are part of the problem. We are not the solution. No. We are part of the problem.
We're going to hear now from Abra Ahmed.
The entire panel was basically supportive of The Voice. And he basically said that there's no one there representing the no opinion. What's going on with the Aboriginal people is an absolute dereliction of responsibility. And what's funny about this is not their suffering. It's that the very spokespeople from their community that have been working in Canberra for decades are still coming up with nothing. And they continue to berate average Australians into voting for something like The Voice or giving them more money. Aboriginal programs receive $40 billion a year. That's about $109 million a day. We're doing something wrong here. It's not about them not receiving enough money. It's about how they spend it. There are people in Canberra, as Winston Peters said in New Zealand, that will get very rich off this Voice, as they have already been doing.
There'll be an elite who do very well out of it, sucking on the state of the taxpayers' money, whilst the mass majority will have their concerns and needs utterly neglected.
They're on dozens of these Aboriginal boards, and they do not have Aboriginal people's interests in mind, because the day they solve Aboriginal people's problems, that's the day the $40 billion gets cut off. Remember who's doing this, guys. The bureaucrats, they are not your allies. The public servants, they're not your allies. The politicians that come and go from election to election, they are temporary. But the deep state that we often talk about, they're these bureaucrats. They're these fat cats that survive on $40 billion a year on these temporary programs that seem to last forever. At least Alex from the Freedom Community, an Aboriginal man, gets it.
This so-called voice to Parliament to include Indigenous peoples on the Constitution of Australia is pretty much like the COVID vaccines and the illegal mandates that have been enforced on people the past 3 years. It does nothing, absolutely nothing, to address the real issues in this country, or the real disease of colonialism that is destroying Aboriginal people's lives on a daily basis. And that's the truth.
Australia needs to understand what The Voice is really about, and the day that it does, the establishment will back off. If they think they're going to lose the referendum, they will not take it to a referendum. If we get as far as a referendum, we will beat it. If it's in October, we will smash it. And as I've said many times before, that will be our turning point. That will be our Brexit moment. That will be when the silent Australian stands up and says no.